It is a big week for second quarter earnings, especially in the technology sector. We have just heard from Twitter, the social media giant, reporting earnings. Revenue of $574 million and earnings of 8 cents a share. Better than expected in terms of the bottom and the top line. The stock, however, was up 3% before the report came out and is now down 2.5%. Joining us right now is the editor of Mashable Tech, Pete Paschal is with us. Also with us are ARK Investment CEO Cathie Wood. Good to see you both. Thank you so much for joining us. Pete, you were really focused on the monthly active users. We got that number, 328 million for Twitter. Your reaction to this report?
I wish I knew right off my top of my head. What is the increase?
I think it's fairly flat.
Of that? Because I know it went up by 9 million last quarter, and that was a big quarter for them. Usually it's about 3 or 4 million. But the revenue, great news. And it seems like that they're turning what was a good quarter last quarter into something that sort of is resembling momentum at the very least.
That monthly active user number, according to what I'm seeing here, at 328 million is flat quarter over quarter. Folks were looking for slightly higher than that, to call it 329 to 332.
And we kind of knew that it wasn't going to, that number wasn't going to spike. We all kind of hoped, I think, investors, that it was going to keep going, but it was basically a Trump bump from the last quarter, it seemed like, that everyone was talking about.
Now, the other interesting things that I'm seeing here, Pete and everyone else, is adjusted EBITDA for this quarter looks great at 178 million. The street was looking for somewhere around 125. And the one issue here, though, is that next quarter's adjusted EBITDA cash flow projection is seen 130 to 150. Now, the street was looking for 144.1 there, so this is the midpoint of that is slightly light. So between the MAU and the cash flow projection, I think that's where we're seeing the shortfall here, that and expectations.
There's one other number that's really important. It's daily average users, not to get too detailed.
Well, they never reveal that one.
No, they do. They tell it had been accelerating. The growth rate bottomed out at 2% roughly a year and a half ago, and had moved into the double digits. That's a leading indicator. We think what's going on is a churn away from celebrities into the knowledge worker space. We use Twitter all the time. We push our research. Blockchain lives on Twitter. Artificial intelligence, people, experts, they live on Twitter. So I really think you're having a wholesale changeover in the user base, so to a very important and valuable demographic.
We agree. We're on Twitter all the time. I'm live tweeting, so is Dagan when we're here. But are they going to be able to monetize it?
Yes, I think so. Let's put it this way. I run away from advertising everywhere. But the way Twitter is doing it with the promotions, I run into it and pay maybe a little more attention than I do normally. This is a demographic they're not going to get very many places. I'm not on Facebook.
To that point that you might get, and this is more of a question, but you might get more advertisers flocking to Twitter because at least there's inventory. And if you can really define who your users are better to the advertisers, which again, working on their own metrics, because you see Facebook has hit a ceiling, which Mark Zuckerberg talked about, hit a ceiling in terms of the ad inventory available on the news feeds. So they're trying to push video, and that's over, but that's over a 2 to 3 year window.
I think with Twitter's main product, that is the stream of tweets, it's always been extremely difficult to monetize for multiple reasons. So one is that the audience, exactly what you're talking about, isn't sort of this uniform thing. It's the splintered groups that are mostly talking to each other, like there's media Twitter. We were just talking about blockchain Twitter. You know,
and how do you target ads to people who hate Trump? Because again, that's how they use Twitter. It's not, hey, what kind of music do you like? What kind of fashion do you like? What are your shopping habits? You can't figure that out based on how somebody tweets.
The demographic that we're talking about, the shift towards the knowledge workers, I think that's very important, and I don't think a lot of people understand what is happening out there, how much activity there is out there, and how valuable that information is. The information flow that we get is so valuable, and it's not out there in the traditional financial world.
And that knowledge workers, that's what advertisers want to reach.
And celebrities can use Instagram because they only have to take photos of themselves, and they don't actually have to put thoughts into words and sentences. They don't have to actually use the English language.
So Twitter does have some spin here about what we were just talking about. Total ad engagements are up 95% year over year in Q2. Video remains the largest and fastest growing format for ads. Perhaps not surprising,
That's what she just said,
especially if you listen to Pete.
Yeah.
And,
But the stock is plummeting, down 6%
well,
right now.
and they're getting a positive response from advertisers around live premium video content. So, in terms of how do you hook them in, the video seems to be working. Why is the stock down? Is it MAU? Is it cash
yeah,
flow?
why has stock
Or is
MAUs?
it also that the stock has been running?
Yeah, it's had a
the bar
move
was high.
from 16-ish. It's basing in here. It's
Well, the
basing.
video strategy, I think, is sort of finally on track. I mean, they had the deal with the NFL, and that sort of went away because they were streaming live games, but then they had their sort of more widespread deal with various companies, including Major League Baseball and the NFL. But it wasn't about streaming games. It's about, like, the commentary, the ancillary stuff. And that's actually, like, that's the best use case for Twitter already. I mean, if whatever you're watching, whether it's Game of Thrones or a football game, we don't use Twitter to actually, like, watch the content. It's more for that commentary and that secondary stuff, and that seems to be a strength for them.
But even though revenue is above expectations, it's down year over year. Revenue is down 14% year over year, U.S. advertising revenue.
So that's why this daily average user statistic is important. It had been accelerating. We'll see what happens. But the expectation was down 11%.
Okay, it's down 14%.
Yeah.
So there you go. And you remember seeing the stock trade lower. So